Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday evening. Thank you for joining us as we are studying Pirkei Avot, chapter 5, and we have a new Mishnah today. It's going to be Mishnah 5. Unless you're following along on the shared screen, it's going to be Mishnah 4. So here it is. It's a beautiful Mishnah. It's a rather easy Mishnah to understand, but there's a lot to talk about. The Mishnah says, Asara nisim na'asu la'avotenu b'Mitzrayim. 10 miracles happened to our forefathers in Egypt. Does everyone know what the 10 miracles are? What are the 10 miracles that happened to us in Egypt? Okay, we'll come right back to that. Asara al-hayam. 10 miracles happened to us at the sea. Okay, we know about the ocean, the sea that God split. So 10 miracles happened in Egypt. 10 miracles happened at sea. Next, Eser makot hevi HaKadosh Baruch Hu al HaMitzrim b'Mitzrayim. 10 plagues that Hashem brought to the Egyptians in Egypt. Ve'eser al hayam, and 10 plagues that God brought to the Egyptians at the sea. Finally, Asara nisyonot nisu avotenu et hamakom Baruch Hu b'midbar. 10 times that we tried Hashem. What does that mean, 10 times that we tried Hashem? 10 times that we tested and that we complained and we were lacking. We'll see in a minute exactly how that manifested. But 10 times that we tried Hashem in a negative way. Shene'emar vainasu oti ze 10 pe'amim. God says to Moses, they tested me 10 times. Velo shame'u bekoli. And they don't listen to me. So there's a number that repeats itself over and over and over again. What's that number? The number is the number 10. Okay? Beautiful. 10. So here it is. 10 miracles to happen in Egypt. 10 miracles happened at Yam Suf. 10 makot to the Egyptians at Egypt. 10 makot to the Egyptians on Yam Suf. And 10 times that we tried HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Midbar. Okay, so the first question is, what exactly are the 10 miracles that happened to us in Egypt? Anyone know? I don't remember miracles in Egypt. And actually, the simplest answer is the correct one. So if you're thinking of an answer, you should probably write it, because that is probably the right answer. What were the 10 miracles that happened to us in Egypt? The fact that the 10 makot didn't hit us. Right? When God brought blood, frogs, lice, etc., all these plagues, none of them affected the Jewish people. Now that's a miracle. Why is that a miracle? Why is that a miracle that it didn't affect us? Because there is a rule that whenever disaster strikes, whenever the forces of destruction are given the right to pass through a country or through a city or through a place, the rabbis tell us, Eno mavhin ben tzaddik larasha. He does not differentiate between good and bad. That's why on Makat Bechorot, by the way, when the angel of death was coming through town, killing everybody, God told everyone, get into your house. Why? Why should I get in my house? If I'm a good guy, if I'm righteous, then the angel will leave me alone and it wouldn't affect me. And the answer is no, that's not how it works. When there is, God forbid, a pandemic, when there is a virus going around in the world, when there is a plague, when there are rockets, when there are dangerous elements out there, we don't have the right to say, no, me, I trust Hashem. I'm gonna go, and God will protect me. I could go to a party. I could go to shul. I could go outside. I could go here. I don't have to worry about a virus. I don't have to worry about rockets. I don't have to worry about dangerous things going on. God's gonna protect me. It's not true. Eno mavhin ben tzaddik larasha. God does not differentiate between good and bad when it's a time of calamity. and therefore we have to be very careful to be safe. It's actually a pasuk in this week's parasha, Vahai Bahem. We should live and follow and make sure that we are preserving our health, our safety. And so, 10 plagues, the rule says that if the plague is hitting a country, it should hit everybody, Jew and non-Jew. And yet we know that the Jewish people were protected from the makot. Dam, tzefardeya, kinim, right? These are makot that we were protected from. That's the miracle that our Mishnah is talking about. 10 miracles that happened to our ancestors in Mitzrayim. It's the fact that the makot did not hit and affect the Jewish people. Beautiful. Next. Asara al Hayam. And 10 miracles happened at sea. Okay? Again, a lot of different opinions, but just to go through them quickly, okay? Quickly, without delving deeply into each one. Okay, excuse the pun. Okay, without delving deeply. Says Avot de Rabbi Natan. Miracle number 1, the sea split. That's obvious. Miracle number 2, tunnels were formed in the sea. There were tunnels. Okay, number 3, the seabed was dry for the Jewish people to walk through. That's nice, that's comfortable. You know, Hashem could have split the sea and the water is still going to be very, what happens when you walk on the beach, by the way? You ever walk on the beach where the water touched the sand? Very muddy, very uncomfortable to walk on, right? Ever go jogging barefoot along the shore? Very difficult. Hashem could have made it like that. It's still a miracle. I split the sea. Take what you could get. Don't complain. I just saved your life. But Hashem made it dry up very quickly so that we could walk on comfortable, dry, hard land. Number 4, it remained muddy for the Egyptians so that their wheels get stuck. Number 5, the waters solidified into a rock-like substance so that when they came crashing on the Egyptians, it caused injury. Number 6, the sea waters formed into perfectly shaped bricks. Again, we don't understand why Hashem necessarily had to do this, but there are many, many beautiful essays explaining these miracles. Number 7, the walls formed to create 12 lanes. Each tribe had a different lane. Number 8, the walls were transparent, allowing each tribe to see through. Hey Joe, I see you. What's going on, Joe? Take a look. I got apples growing out, right? That's a big miracle. Number 9, the water remained sweet and liquidy for the Jews to drink from to quench their thirst. And finally, number 10, the water that they didn't drink froze and waited for them so that they can re-drink it when they emerged from the water. Okay, beautiful. So 10 miracles that we had at Mitzrayim, 10 miracles that we had in Egypt. By the way, in the Haggadah, many of you probably are thinking of this question. We say in the Haggadah Shel Pesach that we actually experienced a lot more than 10 miracles at sea, right? We had 50 or 200 or 250 miracles at Yam Suf, but no one says 10. Everyone agrees that it was really 50 or 2. So why are we saying now there was only 10? Give it a couple of seconds. The fact that the Egyptians drowned was a result of the other miracles, but that itself was not a miracle. It's just a result. Okay, beautiful question. Okay, so either we could say it's a mahloket. Okay, we could say it's a mahloket, or yes, it could have side effects. Beautiful. So 10 categories of miracles that had side effects. Okay, and finally we are up to the next one that we all know. 10 makos, 10, the Mitzrayim were punished again, right? 10 makot, 10 plagues that we had. Yes, thank you for the applause. Okay, 10 makot that we had in Egypt. Now, I have a very obvious question for everyone. It may be a silly question, but it's a question that bothered me a little bit. We said 10 miracles happened in Egypt, and then 10 plagues hit the Egyptians. Isn't that backwards? Wasn't it first 10 plagues that hit the Egyptians, and the result was that God had to now do 10 miracles for the Jews in Egypt? Because like we said before, what were the 10 miracles that happened to us in Egypt? It was the fact that the plagues didn't affect us. So that means that there was a plague. So first the Mishnah should say 10 plagues in Egypt, and then God did 10 miracles for the Jewish people. Good question. It's an interesting question. Maybe it's not the best question. I don't know if I'm going to get, a book now written by me because of that question, but I think it's a fair question. And the answer really goes back to the question of why did God bring 10 plagues? Why did Hashem bring 10 makot? What was the goal of the makot? And many people think the goal of the makot was to punish the Egyptians. Not so. The makot were not just to punish the Egyptians. It may have also been to punish the Egyptians, but the makot had another goal, maybe more important goal, and that is that the Jewish people, you think about a slave mentality. The Jewish people were slaves in Egypt for 190 years. They were there, and they not only became slaves physically, psychologically, they were broken. They had no spine, they had no self. And God needed to redeem them mentally. If this nation, if this Jewish people are going to come out of Egypt and accept the Torah and go into the promised land and defeat the Goyim, someone has to tell them that they are important. Someone has to make them feel good. Someone has to make them feel valuable. The goal of the Makot was precisely this, to show the Jewish people, God says, I care about you. And each Makkah, the Jewish people see the Egyptians suffering and they weren't, and it lifted their morale. It lifted their confidence. It gave them a little bit more courage till slowly, they were able to leave. The Maharal, he points out something beautiful, by the way. He says there are two types of harms that could come onto a person. Two ways that we could get harmed. Either by another person or by nature. Two things that could harm us. That's it. Either a person hits us or nature. Right? And Hashem, when He took us out of Egypt, wanted to show the people, the world, that He controls both. Number one, He destroyed the Egyptians. And number two, He split Yam Suf. And these are the two sets of 10. 10 miracles in Egypt, 10 miracles Al Yam Suf. However, the final line of the Mishnah, all the beautiful makot and the beautiful times we were saved and the beautiful miracles at Yam Suf, and still the Mishnah ends off. Nonetheless, Asara Nisyonot Nisu Avotenu et Hamakom Baruchu Bamidbar. The Jewish people tried and tested Hashem 10 times. Could you believe it? 10 times that we complained in the desert, 10 times that we tried to Hashem. Now again, we have to remember, Pirkei Avot is not a history book. Why is Pirkei Avot telling us that there were 10 miracles? Who cares? Why do we need to know that? What's the lesson for us today from this Mishnah? To walk away as the lesson that it was, we got 10 miracles. Just good to know. History. Fun fact. Pirkei Avot is not here for a history book. You want history of the Jews, you read Paul Johnson, amazing book. But if you want to know about ethics, read Pirkei Avot. This Mishnah is in Pirkei Avot. Obviously, this Mishnah is here to tell us something very, very powerful. You know, a lot of times we speak to people that are struggling with emunah. You ever saw to someone that was struggling with emunah, belief and faith in God? Many times, I'm sure you have, I have. And they'll always say something along the lines like this. They'll always say, Rabbi, you know what? I really want to believe. If only Hashem will just give me a sign, I'll accept Him. I just want to see. I just want to see the sea split. I just want to see, fire coming down, like we learned in this morning's class, Eliyahu Navi. I just want to see this, I just want to see that. Right? A lot of times we just want to see, and there is a statement, or there is an aphorism: seeing is believing. Right? Many times we say, if you see, you believe. And we need to know that that's not entirely true. It is possible for a person who can witness a divine miracle. Beautiful, Rachel. This is what we're reading. A lot of times a person, take a look, a person wants a miracle and they could see a miracle and they still won't be convinced. As an example, Rabbi Twersky brings from our Mishnah, Moshe tells the Jewish people, I want you to believe and know, in a year I'm going to take you out of Egypt. The Jewish people at first didn't believe him. Then he brings 10 makot, and each makkah hits the Egyptians and it doesn't hit the Jews. And then they leave Egypt with a lot of money. And then they get to Yam Suf and Moshe splits it for them. And then they get the man, then they get the water, and then they get the meat, and then they get their whole lives, they're getting non-stop miracles. Non-stop, and that's what we just read in our Mishnah. 10 miracles in Egypt, 10 miracles at Yam Suf. The whole life is filled with miracles. And still, the Jewish people, the Mishnah says, tested Hashem, and they complained to Hashem 10 times. And they did Heta Egel. Because at the end of the day, the rule is, if you want to believe, you will believe without miracles. And if you don't want to believe, all the miracles in the world will not help us actually start believing. Beautifully said, Rachel. All the miracles in the world will not convince us. It was an amazing, amazing story about, every 7 years, there's a mitzvah in Israel called, what mitzvah is every 7 years? Very good, Dave. Shemitah. Okay? Every 7 years there's Shemitah. Okay. In Israel, by the way, it's a very big test to close shop on Shemitah year. If you're a farmer, you have to close your field for a year. No business. Can you imagine no business for a year? A lot of people had to imagine it. But the difference between COVID and Shemitah is that from COVID, a lot of people got stimulus checks. Over here, Shemitah, there's no government relief, nothing. Okay, a year, and we have to trust that Hashem is going to help us some way, somehow. And a lot of times, it's a big challenge for farmers, but they have, years before Shemitah, they have seminars trying to recommend and to suggest and to give strength to the farmers to keep Shemitah. It's like keeping Shabbat. Same thing, just for a whole year. Much more difficult than Shabbat, maybe. Okay? I don't know, I wasn't a farmer. And I also work on Shabbat, I'm a rabbi. So I don't keep either. Okay? But it's a very, very big test. Okay? Very big test. And there was an amazing story told many, many years ago. They gathered of farmers, they had a seminar for them, and they tried convincing them to keep Shemitah. And they showed them the beracha that the Torah promises. If one keeps Shemitah, there'll be an abundance of blessing years before or years after. They showed them a story, and there's a lot of books I'm sure you could read today if you're fascinated and interested in this, that show us all the miracles that happened. People that preserve and observe Shemitah, literally again like Shabbat. A person that keeps Shabbat, they see blessing in the other days of the week. A person that keeps Shemitah sees blessing in the other years of the cycle. They showed them an interesting story. I'm not sure what year this was, but it was maybe in the 50s, in the 1950s. They showed them that there was a plague of locusts, like Makat Arbe, like in Egypt. And there was a swarm of grasshoppers that came and they started devouring every single field in Eretz Israel. Every field was hit. And all the people that didn't keep Shemitah and they planted, all their fruits got destroyed anyways. All their produce gone. Until they got to one field. One field that actually wasn't worked. One field that kept Shemitah. The only religious field in Israel at the time, or kibbutz, or whatever it was, and you see the aerial view of the grasshoppers, the swarm of grass. You see them, it's crazy. They're flying, and all of a sudden, if you're looking at it from a bird's eye view, you see them make a split around the field, and then they come back. The entire field untouched. And they show this to them. Anyways, one of the kids was so impressed. He decided he's going to keep Shemitah. He finished the seminar. He got onto his phone. He called his father. He said, "Dad, I just saw this amazing story in the 1950s. You were probably a kid back then. Do you remember the story of the grasshoppers?" And the father, not religious, said, "Yes, of course, we remember the story." And the kid says to his father, "And Dad, didn't that make you want to become religious? Didn't that make you want to start observing?" And the dad smiled and said, "Become religious? To the contrary. You know what the madrich of our kibbutz told us when this story happened? He took all of us kids to that field and he showed us all of the produce intact. And he said, look, you see? Even the grasshoppers don't want to touch the food of the religious. Look how disgusting the religious people are." Could you believe it? This was the conclusion that they taught their students at the time. If one does not want to believe, then they will not believe. And this is a very important psychological concept. If you wish to believe, then you will believe without miracles. And if you are determined to doubt, all the miracles in the world will not convince you. And this is evident clinically. He brings over here. If someone has a need to believe something, you cannot disprove it. If someone wants to believe, you can tell them, if someone wants to believe that such a person won the election, you can try to show them facts. You can try to show them everything. Say, no, it was this, it was that, it's rigged. And if someone, right, the other way is also true. There is an anecdote about a person who developed a delusion that he was dead. And no matter how much they tried talking to this guy, "You're not dead, it's absurd," they couldn't convince him otherwise. So he was finally with one psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said to him, "Do dead men bleed?" And the man said, "No." He says, "Well, I want you to repeat that 100 times. He says, "Okay, 100 times. Dead men don't bleed. Dead men don't bleed. Dead men don't bleed. Dead men don't bleed." 100 times. After the completion of the recitation, the psychiatrist took a little needle and pricked the guy's finger, and he started bleeding. And this guy looked at his own finger, and he saw blood, and the patient responded, "Dead men do bleed." And it's very powerful, very powerful story. How if we're delusional and if we want to believe something, then no matter what evidence is presented to us, the facts don't matter. The facts do not matter. And we are living in a time, we are living in an age, we are going through a period in history right now that is very unique. And it's literally this idea. Facts do not matter anymore. You could talk to people facts. You could tell them proofs. You can talk, they don't want to know facts. There's a trial going on right now about what happened in the summer. Facts don't matter. We all saw the tape. Nothing else matters. Don't bring me other facts. Don't bring me other tapes. Don't bring any witnesses. There's no reason for it. Nothing. It's just, again, don't get stuck on the example. We're living, again, it's all about cancel culture, and nothing that you say matters. Nothing that you say I'm going to listen to. These are my beliefs. And if the facts that you present me don't fit with my belief system, then we're going to cancel your facts. This is what's going on today in social media. Very frightening. They're literally filtering and they're removing any content that doesn't fit with their agenda, factual or opinionated, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This is the world that we are living in. And if someone wants to deny something, then even if the facts are right in front of them, they could do it. Rabbi Twersky writes over here, he sees many times day after day, highly educated people that just refuse to accept the fact they have an addiction to drugs, they have an addiction to alcohol, to gambling, etc. And this is how important it is for us to have someone in our lives that is not subjective. Have someone in our lives that is not biased, someone that we can speak to, that's on the outside. Because I may think, no, I don't have a problem. No, I'm not addicted. No, this is not dangerous for me. No, these friends, they're good for me. I'm in control. I am watching yeah, right? And we need to be able to make sure we have people in our lives that we can consult with, that we can talk to, that care about us, that are a outside party, that are not blinded by the drives that we are blinded by. Doesn't mean that everything that everyone tells us right away we have to kiss them and listen to them and observe what they say right away. But it does mean that we need to be cognizant of this idea, to recognize that our convictions may be subject to our wishes. We have drives, we have an ego. When they are attacked, when we are thirsty, when we are driven by our drives, we have to realize that sometimes we need to critically examine some of the things that we are so certain about. Even the Jewish people, with all their miracles, they still doubted HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes, 10 times. And it's not a random number. It's not just, it happens to be 10 and 10. The point is, even with 10 miracles, doesn't help. You'll still test Hashem. Every one of those miracles you'll use as a way of challenging God and putting doubt in yourself about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we want to believe, then we will. And if we don't want to believe, and if a person's not open-minded, if a person's not interested in seeing truth, then no matter what opinions are presented to them, we will just confirmation bias. We use whatever helps our position as confirmation, and whatever doesn't, we simply disregard. Anyways, there's a lot more to say, but we'll stop over here. Again, just a reminder, our classes moving forward have been moved to 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, no longer at 6:30 p.m. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.